Hey friends, it's Brian, and get ready. I've got some great stories for you here. So be ready, put those thinking caps on because I need some advice. Now my wife refuses to accept our divorce, and I think she's really trying to trick me using a throwaway because I just need advice. So my wife, she's 29, I am 34. I've been married for 4 years, and up until about a year and a half ago, things were absolutely fantastic. Now, our marriage began to kind of fall apart after there was a significant drop in our hanky-panky between us. There was no intimacy, just the actual hanky-panky part of the relationship. We would still cuddle and have deep, intimate moments, just talking and just being around each other, but she kept rejecting my attempts at taking things, to home plate. Certainly nothing past kissing. Now, we've had no problems communicating, so I made sure to address it. And we talked about the problem, and we made some adjustments, but we both made sure to stay in shape. We try to be more adventurous, and we went to couples therapy and even went to counseling. It even tested both of our hormone levels. Everything was normal for both of us. Each solution would work for a little while, and then we'd be back to having a little more hanky-panky for a while, at least probably just once a month though. I asked her several times if she was no longer attracted to me, to which she denied every time. Now, I asked her if I was falling short in the relationship in any other way, to which she said no. Well, about a month ago, she gets back from her therapy session and tells me that she believes that she's asexual and that the reason for her libido being non-existent as of late. Now, I was definitely confused because we had such a great life for a while in the beginning of our relationship, but I was definitely confused because we had really been together for a while, and in the beginning our relationship was fantastic, but her telling me now that she's asexual was heartbreaking because everything else was great. Now, obviously, I'm not going to force her to have relations with me, but we had a long conversation about our relationship, and I came to the conclusion that we should probably just separate. I say I because she immediately rejected the idea and said we'd figure something out and would talk about it later. But I didn't know what to say, so I dropped it. Well, 3 weeks ago, of course, we've not been together this whole 3 weeks, I decided that I have to do this for my own mental well-being, so I filed for separation. She was served papers. Now, last week when I got home from work, she was going about the day like nothing was wrong. I asked her if she signed the papers, and she flat out said, "We're not getting a divorce. We're not separating." She changed the subject and acted like things were normal. Now, obviously, I thought this was crazy. So I stopped there and said I couldn't be in a marriage without having relations. And I mentioned that I was being incredibly fair with our separation. She can keep the house, which we bought and paid for. She paid about a third of it. I paid 2/3. I take all the debt, which isn't much, and we'd split our savings and investment in half. She can keep 2 of our 3 paid off cars. I only wanted to keep my sports car, and thankfully we don't have kids, so I love her and wanted her to be comfortable, and I have no problem starting over since I make good income, but she won't budge or talk about separation. Now, this brings us to 2 days ago. So I get home to our bedroom and I find my wife's friend, she's 27, in our bed naked. Now, I immediately shut the door and said sorry and went looking for my wife. Well, I found her in the kitchen and asked what her friend was doing here, and she said that she was here for me. Now, I put 2 and 2 together and said that I am not going to have relations with this other woman in place of the woman I chose to marry. She was adamant in saying that I could sleep with her whenever I wanted and that her friend agreed to it. Now, I couldn't believe that things were going this far, so I went back to our bedroom and asked her to leave. I packed a bag, and I've been staying at a hotel nearby since that night. My wife, her mother, and her sister keeps calling me, but I'm just not interested in hearing what they have to say. This feels like a trick. I just want this whole thing to be over. Does anyone have any advice? Is this some kind of ploy for alimony? We do have a prenup. Should I just contact a lawyer and go ahead and force the divorce? I'm really uncomfortable with this whole situation, and I'm attracted to her friend, but I'm married to my wife. Here's the update. If anyone's interested, I'll try to keep this as concise as possible. I really feel overwhelmed, so I probably won't bother with another update until this one. I don't know. My wife came to my hotel last night and we talked about everything. She told me the full truth and what's going on in her mind. Now, a few of you commented this in the last post, so you were right. She has always been asexual. She and her whole family has known this since she was 16. And apparently this is the reason why her last long-term relationship of 3 years ended. He broke up with her after the relations between them diminished to being non-existent after the first year. She told me that it's easier to have relations in the beginning when emotions are running high, but she still needs to force herself to have it. Now, I knew they broke up due to irresolvable differences, but I didn't know and I didn't ask for the details. Now, after a lot of apologies and crying, she told me that I was the first person she was able to tolerate relations with for as long as she did, and actually enjoyed it a handful of times, but after a while, she still felt like she wasn't into it. So I broke down after hearing this and started kicking myself for not catching on to this anyway. She said she tried her best to please me as much as she could. She still doesn't want a divorce, and she doesn't want the house, the cars, or the savings. She just wants me to stick around and be ready to do whatever it takes to keep me. She even said that she would sign a post-nup stating this. Now, as for her friend, she was there during her last breakup and helped to support her through it. Now, my wife went to her when I brought up separation, and she talked with her. Her friend suggested that she open the relationship up so that I could sleep with other women. My wife really didn't want me sleeping with strange women, so her friend volunteered herself because she would be the one who sleeps with me. Now, my wife thought this was a great idea, which led to the fiasco at our house the other night. I won't comment on her appearance because it doesn't matter, and I don't blame the friend. Now, the lawyer got back to me. You were all right. I don't need her permission, but I'll have to wait if I want to push it through. Now, I asked her why she lied to me this entire marriage, and she said that she was tired of being rejected after revealing that she was asexual. So she convinced herself that she would be able to force herself to have relations with me during our marriage. And the hormone testing, the sessions in couple therapy, and all our solutions was just her buying time to find out a way around us having relations, or giving herself enough time to build up the strength to start regularly being with me again. So our conversation ended up with us holding each other in bed crying for a couple of hours. No, we didn't have relations, so she pleaded with me to hold off on the divorce to look for a solution together, and she left my hotel room. Now I'm sitting alone, typing this post. I guess I found out that we didn't share everything with each other. Thank you to everyone who's messaged me directly, and I'm still trying to get to all of them. There's a lot of comments. I don't know what I'm going to do. Here's an update, though. I don't think I can link my previous posts, so just go to my profile, I guess, if you care to read the op. I've tried to read every comment and respond to the messages and take heart to what most of you have said. I'll make this as short as possible, though. After my last update, my wife asked me to meet with her about a week later to discuss things with her. Now, I've been staying at an extended stay since that night with her friend. Now, we met at her house and talked for a few hours, and she started off with a ton of apologies for how she acted, her lying about her sexuality and not taking my sexual needs more seriously. But before I could say anything, she presented a signed post-nup agreement that she had drafted up with a lawyer stating that she doesn't want anything. The house, the cars, the savings, everything is mine. I felt like the biggest you-know-what for thinking she was tricking me for the money. I asked her if she was serious, and she told me to take the post-nup with me and sign it when I'm ready. I still haven't signed it, and it's in my backpack, and I told her that I still think divorce is our best course of action and that we both deserve to find someone who matches our needs. She still refuses and borderline begged me to reconsider. She started crying, and of course, so did I. Seeing her like this was devastating. Now, I told her that her finding other women to sleep with me wasn't going to work. If I developed feelings for them, what if I got one of them pregnant? Do we expect her to get an abortion? She said, we'll figure it out as we go along, and to please give her more time to work on the solution. She set up appointments for hormone therapy, and she decided to go see a hormone guru and said that it sounds like we're going through the same things again, and she was adamant and pleaded with me to wait. Now, there were more apologies on both sides, and we kissed for a while before ending the conversation that I went back to my hotel that night. A few days later, I tried texting her, but she didn't respond, so I called her dad. I'm avoiding her and her sister since they're saying the same things as my wife. Now, her dad told me that she moved back home and has been at home in her room since our last talk. She's called out of work. He told me that she's barely eating, barely bathing, or talking to him or her mom. He asked me what I was going to do, but I didn't have an answer for him. He just said he understood. He would be here to talk anytime I wanted to. So I went back to her house, and a good portion of her stuff was already gone. The whole place feels empty. I've been sleeping in one of the spare rooms. I'm planning on flying to my mother's house in a couple of weeks to spend time with my family to decompress from this entire situation. I'm still on the divorce side of the fence, but I guess there's no rush. Thank you to everyone for your insight and your concern. Seriously, I know we're all strangers, but most of you have been a huge help to my mental health. Seriously, thank you so much. Also, my cousin uses Reddit and reached out after he found my last post and asked me to shout him out if I made an update. So, love you, Virgil. Thank you for being there for me. I think I'll just make a quick edit to this post once we reach a resolution for anyone that cares. So, comment, what should I do, guys? Okay, let's jump into the second story. My husband wants to leave me for celebrating my late aunt's birthday every year. Hi, everyone. I apologize if this post is all over the place and I'm filled with a lot of emotions and anger. For some context, I'm a 24-year-old female, didn't have the best relationship with my parents. My mother and father divorced when I was extremely young. Needless to say, they weren't very good co-parents. My mom was an alcoholic and my father did drugs. My aunt, who wasn't my aunt by blood, but was my grandma's best friend, took care of me most of the time when I had to stay with my father. She would constantly make me feel loved and took care of me. She would always have fun activities planned for us to do together, such as making bread bracelets and bead art, making other jewelries and painting. I loved being with her because there was never a dull moment. Now, when I was in 5th grade, my mom got clean and got full custody over me. We ended up moving towns and I never really saw my father again. It got extremely difficult to see my aunt, but as I got older, I could drive and I started seeing her more again. Now, fast forward to 2021, my aunt passed away due to lung issues. I had not seen her in years because I was working and was dating my husband, who's 25, in 2020. Now, I felt extremely guilty that I hadn't seen her in so long. Once I was told about the disease, I immediately went to see her in hospice. I went and saw her twice, and that last day I saw her, she passed away holding my hand. I was extremely broken. My aunt's birthday is on September 15th. Ever since she passed away, I've always made her favorite flavored cake, sang happy birthday and blown out candles for her. This is my way of showing appreciation and love for my aunt, but my husband's sister, she's 12's birthday is also on that same day. Now, I love a sister and I always spend the majority of the day with her. At the end of the night, I do go home to bake the cake for my aunt. This makes my husband absolutely furious. Anytime I ask if he'd like to join me, he always angrily declines and says his sister is more important. Now, I totally understand. I'll leave by myself, but he sent me a text saying, I'm not coming home tonight. And I responded, I love you, be safe. I wake up in the morning to see all of his stuff from the apartment is gone, along with a text saying, you are extremely selfish and leaving a 12-year-old on her birthday for a dead person isn't okay. Now, I'll be contacting a divorce lawyer. Well, I immediately started crying as my husband knows how much my aunt's death impacted me. He also knew I would celebrate before even marrying me. I am more angry than sad right now that this is destroying my life over me wanting to bake a cake for my aunt. Our relationship has never had huge issues, and yes, he would get annoyed every year, but it was never to this extent. Needless to say, it's only been a few hours, but I'm okay with him wanting to divorce me. Don't need to be with someone who can't accept me making a cake because I'm not going to stop.